Sports Talk Live today features a miracle in Motown, the college football playoffs, and prediction time. Sports Talk Live 2.0 coming at you. Welcome into Sports Talk Live 2.0, where we like sports and we don't care who knows. Today, I am joined by the two smartest sports analysts in all of lacrosse, dare I say, all of Wisconsin. We've got Joey Olson, and we've got back from a year-long suspension,
1 year.
Colin Talbert. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Keith Olbermann of WMCM. It's good to have you back.
I'll try to keep it in line today, boys.
Appreciate that, bud. So why don't we just get it started? I know it seems like an eternity ago already, but we had an amazing game on Thursday night. Well, it was an amazing, how do you even say it? They didn't lead for any seconds, but we had a miracle in Motown. Joey, set the stage.
4-6 seconds. We have John, the cameraman, over there that knows about that, where his team, Michigan State, has won 2 games in the last second going, and the Packers found their way to get it again. The Packers now 8-4 after that miracle in Motown. Just the throw. Let's just focus on the throw. What were you doing? Did you believe that it was going to come down in the way? One of the craziest Hail Marys I've ever seen.
I was in shock. I didn't have like any words to say. Like I literally stood in front of the TV screen like this the entire time for probably a good 10 minutes after the game probably. But yeah, they said the hang time was exactly like a punt. Beautiful spiral, got right to the end zone. I mean, could you have asked for a better throw?
I had a weird transition of going like this from the last play where they were doing all the laterals to peeking through my fingers to completely standing up and losing my mind.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a big range of emotions. But
absolutely.
Jesus, Detroit, what are you doing? You have 2 guys guarding the sideline and you don't have Kelvin Johnson out there to defend that play. What are you doing?
And he says he was looking for a lateral. Again, who the opposing quarterback is. You don't think that he could probably throw the ball that far into the end zone. I had no idea what in the world that they were doing there.
The thing that was interesting to me was the play was intentionally for Devontae Adams is what they said in the post game.
Why?
And just why? Richard Rodgers had a breakout game, 6-7 catches, that being his 8th, and getting that touchdown at the end. Definitely a breakthrough there. So let's look to the bigger picture that now the Packers go on and play the Cowboys. They have some big games coming up. Is that confidence going to get them through to win, get our swagger back, or will we see some of these problems continue?
I don't know. I still see a lot of problems from this game, and there was a lot more negatives than positives that you can take out of. And I think number one was, I don't want to say the play calling aspect, but a lot of it was there's no running attack still. And we were talking about this a little before the show. Is they keep trying to run to the outside, and it's not working. And run up the middle where the bread and butter is, like you said. The whole right side of the offensive line was missing, and
you had 4 offensive linemen that were out at the end of that game. And at halftime, you have McCarthy say, well, we need to run the football more. You're going to run it out of shotgun with 4 backup linemen? That just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't fit your personnel.
Real quick, after that Hail Mary, I said that's what championship teams do. In Green Bay, it's all about championships. I think that puts the Packers back on track. Confidence moving forward.
And we have to figure out what to do on 3rd down because we still a lot of problems on 3rd down. We got to start converting these field goals into touchdowns instead.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a big problem for a couple years. So, guys, we had a couple of wild finishes in Week 13 of the NFL. A lot of playoff scenes are really starting to develop. A couple teams are starting to move. A couple teams are starting to fall down. What are some of the interesting matchups you saw over the weekend and how that kind of shapes the playoff picture?
Before going back to Week 12, there were 3 games that ended on the last play of the game. Going from the Broncos game on Sunday night to the blocked field goal to the Packers game. And then there was a couple that ended on the last play also on Sunday. The Blaine Gabbert overtime win over the Bears where Robbie Gould missed the chip shot field goal, and then Gabbert throws it 80 yards. Jets finding a way in overtime against the Giants. Even a game that didn't have many playoff implications, the Ravens ended up missing a field goal at the end for the Dolphins to win. Going on to the later games, the Panthers, a wild one over New Orleans. The NFL, say what you will about it, it seems that competition is equal no matter who goes up, besides maybe if the Browns don't give Johnny Manziel a shot. Got blown out by the Bengals.
And talking about that Saints and Panthers game, there really wasn't a point in that game where I thought that the Saints they were going to win, because you just had a feeling that Cam was going to come back, and as much as people like him, people don't like him, the guy gets the job done and he gets wins. And like you said, the Jets, Giants, Ryan Fitzpatrick starting to kind of settle and give him that quarterback role that they've kind of been missing, and it's a good team. They're still in contention from that. And then Tampa Bay and Falcons. I mean, what's happened to Matt Ryan? I mean, the guy is a turnover machine, and that's hurting him. This was a team that was at the beginning of the season was a legitimate threat in the NFC.
They're 5-0.
Yeah, and now they've disappeared. Yeah.
You kind of and. Glad you brought him up, because there's a lot of quarterbacks that teams are going to have to make some big-time decisions on.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan is one of them. Stafford is another one. Guys getting big-time money and really don't, have the results to back that up. I think ever since the Falcons lost that home game to Seattle, it just kind of all started to go downhill for them. And unfortunately, they have pieces. They have offensive weapons. And they brought in that guy from Seattle to be their head coach, but it just has not worked for them at all. And you can kind of see, and injuries, play a part of that. They've had guys miss some time, but, I mean, it's the NFL. Every team has injuries. You can't really use that as an excuse.
I like you look to the long term of the NFL. I heard on the Dan Patrick show the other day that the teams that might not make the playoffs, that there's a potential of 14 coaches moving around in the NFL. Some of these younger coaches that have bad quarterbacks, such as maybe Sean Payton, or moving forward, will choose teams that have younger quarterbacks moving forward.
Well, guys, we talked about the Week 13 in the NFL. The playoff picture starting to get shaped up for us. So, guys, why don't we go run down NFC, AFC? Who do you guys have in your playoff picture? Maybe some surprises. Joey, why don't you start us off with the guys that you have in the NFC playoff picture?
Okay, well, first of all, we'll just look at it as it ends today. The Panthers is probably the obvious one seed. Cardinals have a matchup with the Packers coming up in a couple weeks to probably figure out the number 2 seed in the NFC. The 3 seed will go to the loser. And then the 4 seed right now, the NFC East, wide open. And the one team that I do not want to play, that I do not want to see come to Lambeau as a Green Bay Packer fan, are the Philadelphia Eagles. 5-7, they're a matchup nightmare for us. We saw them get spanked in the preseason. That's the one team I don't want to see. Obviously, Seattle is right there, too. I don't know if they have enough time to catch the 3-game lead of the Cardinals, but they're another dangerous wild card team. Another team to look for in the NFC South, like I said, young quarterbacks are a big thing. Jameis Winston has the Buccaneers at a 6-6, and having those folks in Tampa Bay believe they've been selling out some games there, and really a team moving forward that you might see jump in if the Vikings can't figure themselves out.
And you look at a great point of just for the Packers playoff picture perspective. That was kind of a tongue twister there. Packers playoff perspective picture. All right. I don't want Seattle to come to Green Bay again. This is a team. I mean, this is a team that's red hot, and I think Tyler Lockett's kind of turned it up late, and Russell Wilson's been playing really good football, and that defense is really starting to find their gel again, and they're dangerous in the way that the Packers have looked and slumped offense really the last 4 or 5 weeks. That's a dangerous game that I look at. Overall, I still think Carolina is the team to beat. We'll talk about this later in the show, prediction time, when they're going to lose. I don't see them losing. On the other side of things, real quick, I think the Broncos, with how well the defense is playing right now, Osweiler stepped in and he's played extremely well. The Patriots is too banged up. I think they're really going to start showing. So I think look for the Broncos over there in the NFC.
Yeah, really going to start to show up. So really quick, we're going to take a look at a fantastic UW lacrosse-focused sports show, Eagle Nation. Stay with us.
Eagle fans, WMCM-TV has a brand new sports show. That's right. Join us every Monday and Friday to keep up to date with all the Eagle athletics. We'll recap highlights, talk to coaches and players, and keep you up to date on what's happening around campus. Pretty cool, right? The show that I'm talking about is Eagle Nation. So join the crew every Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. to talk about UWL athletics. So when you think of sports, think of us, Eagle Nation, on WMCM-TV.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. We are now going to kind of switch gears here into the college football playoff. Guys, this Saturday was an awesome weekend of college football games. Conference championship games did not disappoint. Now we have our Final Four set. We have OU playing Clemson. We have Bama playing Michigan State. What are your thoughts? What are your predictions?
Not that those games weren't entertaining. The only upset of the day, though, was Baylor over Texas that didn't have any basis. You thought the teams that were going to win. But these matchups are great. For New Year's Eve, I'm definitely not going to go out partying. I'm going to be on my couch watching these games. Oklahoma,
you'll still go out
Clemson,
partying.
two similar teams, and Alabama, Michigan State, two similar teams. Those matchups are big time, and really, you don't have a favorite besides, I guess, Alabama coming in as a 9-point favorite over Michigan State for obvious reasons, but we'll talk about that in a second. Who do you guys like?
Well, first I want to say I think these 4 teams made it pretty easy for the college football committee to put them in there. I saw just a tweet how nice of a job that would be. They were sitting on recliners during Championship Saturday just watching the games. Awesome job. When I look like more in depth with the matchups versus Oklahoma Clemson, I think that's a big quarterback matchup in Watson versus Baker Mayfield. I think those are 2 very good quarterbacks that Baker Mayfield I think was just as deserving to be in the Heisman kind of race. Obviously he just didn't come until a little later. I was a little doubtful at Clemson at first, especially when they snuck in kind of as that number 1 overall seed. But you can't really look at the groundwork that they've done. They beat number 8 Notre Dame, number 9 Florida State, 10 North Carolina. They got big wins. This is going to be a good game, I think. Oklahoma Clemson. I don't know. What do you think about the other game?
Well, the thing that I like most about this is you have OU and Clemson. I expect that game to fully be in the 40s. Then you go to Bama MSU.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be 13-10. And no matter what, it doesn't matter what we have for the outcomes of those 2 games. We're going to get a matchup of a prolific offense versus a amazing NFL-style defense, and that's what I'm most excited about. Because you get to the championship, you want the elite playing against the elite, and finally, thankfully, with the college football playoff, we finally have that opportunity. And I don't think people should sleep on MSU. That defense is really good. They're a pro-type defense. A lot of guys are going to go to the NFL. This is going to be the first time Bama has really faced a really good quarterback. So, 9-point favorites, I don't really buy too much into that.
Alabama, Nick Saban is undefeated by at least double digits every time he's faced a coaching tree person of Nick Saban. Of course, Mark D'Antonio has done a great job. Even Saban goes out to say that he's done a better job at Michigan State than he could ever do there. But I think at the end of the day, Alabama gets that win. Sorry, John, the cameraman over here, but great season for MSU. Both of those teams very similar with Dallas, too. I like Alabama in that one. I do like Clemson over Oklahoma. Too much of a break, I think, for Oklahoma with all this confidence going in. At the end of the day, Bama loses and probably embarrassed Ohio State last year. Hate to say it, they're the favorite. I'm kind of mad at myself to say it, but I think Alabama finds a way for the SEC.
All right, guys, branching off to the rest of the bowl games that we're going to have, there's a lot of interesting matchups. And, Joey, you may have it right. There's going to be a lot of nights where I'm just going to be camping out on the couch with a beverage and some chips. So, there's a lot of really good games. What are some interesting matchups that you guys you're interested in watching?
To me, it starts with the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl between Iowa and Stanford. And any other college football year going 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, Iowa and Stanford would have been the ideal Rose Bowl matchup, the Pac-12 champion versus the Big Ten champion. Iowa went 12-0. They fell short on a last-second touchdown by Michigan State, although they were the only team not to lose in the Big Ten throughout the regular season. I like Iowa in that game. Also, right away on New Year's Day, you have the Fiesta Bowl, Notre Dame and Ohio State, two very programs there on New Year's Day. And then what Logan was saying before, how about the first day of the bowl games, December 19th, the Holy War, Utah versus BYU in the Las Vegas Bowl. In an hour, 39,000 seats in that stadium sold out. That one's going to be fun. That if I had to watch 3 bowl games, it'd be right there.
Yeah, I got 3 that stand out to my mind. You mentioned 2 of them. The other one was the Alamo Bowl when you got Oregon versus TCU. That's a lot of explosive offense, good quarterbacks, some spotty defenses, so you could see a lot of points being scored on that, which college football fans like. You mentioned the Rose Bowl, Stanford, Iowa. I mean, how can you get better than that? 2 older school-style teams. It's gonna make the Big Ten fans cry. I mean, they're gonna have tears to their eye. You're gonna see 8-9 minute drives. It's probably gonna be a low-scoring game. Then Fiesta Bowl, real quick. Notre Dame, Ohio State. Did you know this is the 10th year anniversary of that awful Brady Quinn sister jersey?
Oh my
Ohio
God,
State and Brady Quinn.
Forgot about
It's
that.
the 10th year anniversary of this. They met 10 years ago too, so that's kind of another storyline going into the Fiesta
Real quick,
Bowl.
I'll be watching the Alamo Bowl too. That was the first bowl game I've ever been to when Wisconsin had that overtime win with Brooks Bollinger.
All right, guys. So moving on to the Wisconsin side of things in the bowl game, they have a really intriguing matchup with USC at the Holiday Bowl. Now, this is the first time in a long time that the Badgers are not playing a bowl game on January 1st. And some really interesting things. You have USC new coach Clay Helton. They essentially do what the Badgers do offensively now, but with better recruits. How do you see that game playing out?
Without a doubt, USC led by future NFL quarterback Cody Kessler, another NFL quarterback Juju Smith, and that might be a tough matchup for our secondary. But on the other side, USC I see is ranked 103rd in sacks allowed per game. That could be a field day for Dave Aranda, where Cody Kessler can't get off the ball. So I think that it's a big statement game in the program to beat a team like USC, although they're 8-5, and Wisconsin needs a signature win in the year with these guys. They're one of 3 teams that are playing bowl games, the other 2 being Akron and Utah State. Utah State is 5-7 that doesn't have a win over a winning team. Nebraska 5-7, Minnesota 5-7. You can talk about the rest. So this is a big game in the program moving forward.
And I think it's cool these 2 teams haven't played since 1966. Where USC beat the Badgers 38-3. So hopefully for all the Badger fans, it's not a repeat of that. But when I look at it, I look at Joel Stave and kind of the legend that you Badger fans just love there in Madison. I mean, this is it for him. This is his last go around. What's this guy gonna go out on? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
We don't know what we're gonna get. Alex Erickson might get another year of eligibility. Corey Clement, he doesn't know if he's gonna come back. So it should be interesting. Yeah. Like I said, big statement game for the Badgers.
And then just really quick, the Badgers had 2 games against top 10 teams that they easily should have won that I think can't be discounted. That stupid catch thing against Northwestern that I'll never understand. I'll never understand the catch rule. But I digress. So, guys, finally starting to get to that time about what we're going to do and who's going to represent for the Heisman Trophy. We've had a lot of names come and go. We've had a lot of guys that have really had some staying power late here in the season. Who are your guys' favorites for the Heisman?
I think when Derrick Henry punched it in Atlanta in the closing moments in the SEC championship game, I think he could have stuck a Heisman pose, although the other 2, McCaffrey and Watson, have pictures of them actually doing that Heisman pose. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. I think he's your favorite. He's been through and through all year. I don't see them giving it to anybody else going.
And just the conference that he's in, that's a big thing too with, how good the SEC is. And, he's came up big in big-time games, especially of late. And that's what they'll look at is how well he's played at the end of the season. SEC championship game had another good one. The guy's clutch. He really is. He's just a tank. I mean, the guy runs hard. You can't stop him. He's fast.
Always falls forward.
Always falls forward, and gets those extra yards. So you have to think Derrick Henry's by far probably the easy favorite. I love McCaffrey. I mean, the guy just does everything, and just that offense. I've always liked Stanford's offense, and I mean, he catches balls out of the backfield. He can run. He runs hard. Heck, even threw a touchdown pass in the Pac-12 championship game. So, I mean, I love kind of the underdog kind of McCaffrey thing. Deshaun Watson obviously is a stud, and he's had a great year. But yeah, it's got to be Derrick Henry to lose. Probably.
Let me make a quick case for Watson. 70% completion percentage, undefeated, like 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and he had a signature moment in that ACC championship game. 6 seconds left before the half, orchestrates a touchdown for his team. It was a wild game, and he is definitely deserving of the Heisman. So quickly, guys. Again, you get around this time of year. Oh, what's going on in D3 college football? It's Mount Union and UW-Whitewater again. Game's probably going to be in the 50s. Joey, this is your expertise. What do you think? What do you see going on here?
This is the first matchup that they've had for the first time. It's their 10th meeting in 11 years, although this game will be played as a semifinal in Alliance, Ohio, besides the Stag Bowl in Virginia. So Whitewater, they didn't win the conference this year. I think they have a lot of unfinished business as far as that goes, although they've won a few over Mount Union. Mount Union might be the favorite, but Whitewater, after getting revenge at Oshkosh, I think has momentum moving forward. But real quick about the Oshkosh Titans, I want to give a personal shout-out to my Union Grove classmate, Vinny Baselli, that gray-shirted here at lacrosse his freshman year, left the program to play at Oshkosh and ended up being a starter on that team. So congratulations to him.
And I've got to see Whitewater play this year when I worked for the football team, and my initial thoughts from them, they weren't your typical dominating Whitewater team. Obviously, when Oshkosh beat them earlier this year was a tremendous game, But this just kind of happens every year. When you look at Mount Union, their schedule, I mean, they've scored over 40 points in every single game except one. So they've rolled and really haven't had a close game. And I think, in my opinion, the WIAC is the best Division III conference in the country, hands down. You know, the football that you get week in, week out in the conference is phenomenal. So I'd like to think, you know, maybe on paper, Mount Union might be a little bit of a favorite here. You know, obviously when these two teams meet, like you said, every single year it seems like, you know, fireworks are bound to happen, but don't sleep on Whitewater. They got a really good running back.
I think the thing for Whitewater that's different is you always, you know, expect a ridiculous running game. Their offense is going to dominate. Defensively, they've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know, that's one thing you have to look at where in a game that you would expect offensive fireworks, if you have a team that can just get those few stops along the way, that really pays dividends for your team going
Real quick,
forward.
you can watch that game 11 a.m. on ESPN3 for free.
Well done, Joey. All right, we're going to take a quick look at what I think is one of the best sports shows on this channel, Hotshot Sports. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break.
Introducing WMCM's newest sports show, Hotshot Sports. It's got games, memes, highlights, gifts, and everything else that you'd ever want from a sports show, like everything current from social media and all other sports action. So tune in to Charter Channel 989 and Campus Channel 6 for some Hot Shot Sports.
All right, guys, we're to my favorite part of the show. It's prediction time, baby.
Prediction.
All right, why don't we get it started? We've got one of the most famous and longest tenured football games in college football history. The Army versus Navy game. It's always a spectacle. It's always really cool to see all the servicemen at the game losing their minds over the contest. So what do you guys think? Who you got, Army or Navy?
Well, Navy has won this contest just about 14 times in a row now. I think it'll be a 15th time. Keenan Reynolds, a special player to come out of Navy. I don't think they'll be denied there, but
He should be a Heisman candidate.
Yeah.
one of my favorite games of the whole year. And I just love playing the video game every year where you get to use the option every once in a while. And it's actually successful now at Navy. That's not a bad team. They're ranked 23rd in the rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Army might keep it close at the beginning, but obviously I think Navy's just a better football team overall. And you talked about Keenan Reynolds and what he's done, and they've played some pretty big-time schools this year. In the Division I wise of, you know, the Power 6 conferences, and I think he was a snub also of the Heisman. We talked about before the show the fan vote.
Yeah,
how
it just disappeared.
ESPN.com, he was #1 and had the most votes, and they just randomly took it off. But I think just with everything that's been kind of happening outside, this is going to be a special game, I think, and it's going to be, I think, it'll be very emotional, and you know, obviously it's always entertaining, and you know, I think it could be a big-time game, like it always is.
And I don't think people realize how hard it is to get athletes to go, you know, in Army and Navy. Like you don't have the luxuries that other top programs have. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. And when you have Navy that is able to get big-time players, and I mean, it seems like for the past 8 years they've always had a quarterback that's been able to run that offense effectively. So I mean, you can't understate how good of a job that head coach over there has done. I can't remember his name. But, I mean, Navy has done a fantastic job for the better part of a decade. They've actually been a player in college football.
Army, Navy, too, those seniors, the end of that game, that's it. They don't know what they're doing or going after that game. It's their last chance to really put it all out in the field to go have fun, and I just appreciate that year in and year out.
Yep. All right, guys, switching over to college basketball. Marquette and Wisconsin. The Badgers have had a somewhat rough go of it. Had a big win against Syracuse on the road last week. Maybe that builds them up, but Marquette has played a lot better as of late compared to the horrendous year they've had last year where you had guys leaving left and right. What do you guys think? Marquette, Wisconsin, always a classic.
I'll let you go first, Colin.
All right, well, I'm still not sold on the Badgers.
I don't think
They have two really good players. You got Nigel Hayes and Bronson Kane. Yes, Ethan Haff is emerging, but he's still young. He's so raw and got a lot of work to do. Just Vito Brown and Zach Showalter should not start. I mean, this is any other Wisconsin Badger team. These are guys that maybe get 8-10 minutes off the bench possibly, but you just can't. You can't have a hole like that they have, and it's kind of two of them. Like, obviously, you know, Bronson's a stud, and the season he's had and how Nigel's developed his body into kind of that NBA 3. I mean, they're going to win them games, obviously, throughout this year. But then you just look, you know, real quick at Marquette. I mean, they got a big-time front court in Henry Ellison and Luke Fisher, and they're both averaging 16, 15. Then you got Dwayne Wilson, also all Wisconsin guys. I like Marquette.
And the Badgers,
Badgers score 70, they win that game.
Yep. Badgers have been able to control the boards against those big guys
Yeah.
you just talked about. It's going to be really important. So, next, an amazing story out of the NBA. The Warriors have been undefeated since the beginning of the season. They hold an NBA record. Every time they win, they extend that record. They also hold the record for most wins on the road. They have a tough road test tonight against a really improved Indiana Pacers team. Guys, when do you see the Warriors having their first loss?
They're on a 7-game East Coast road trip right now. They play Indiana tonight, Boston Friday. They play the Bucks Saturday. Anyways, if they don't lose to the Bucks, I say, because they play them in Golden State a week from Friday, their next chance for a loss, they do play the Cavaliers on Christmas. They're not going to be denied when they come to town.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be New Year's Eve against the Rockets.
You hear it here first. They're not going to lose. 162-0. Is that how many games they play in a
They
year?
play 82 in the
182,
NBA. 162
sorry.
would be the MLB.
182. And oh no, I'm just kidding. I think they lose on Christmas to the Cavaliers. LeBron's he's big time. He likes those big time games. I think he shows up and wins that one.
Check it right here. Utah, December 23rd, the game before the Cleveland game. Utah played them tough. Probably should have actually won that game. Gordon Hayward has turned into a stud. Look out for that one. All right, guys. Moving on to the Brewers. We'll keep this short. Don't worry, folks. Adam Lind has come up in a lot of talks this year for trades. It's the winter meetings right now in baseball. Do you think he gets traded? Where do you think he'd wind up?
You know, they say in bowl games, a lot of times you get to go out for cocktails for these pregame parties and stuff. The winter meetings are another thing like that. You kind of find these things under the table. I might see Adam Lind. David Stearns is a mover. I think you either see him going to the Mariners or the Orioles. They have good relationships with those organizations, and probably one of the two.
You've heard Mariners a lot, and they've opened up. I think they got rid of their 2 first basemen, so there's open there for him to play first base, possibly. There.
All right, guys,
also.
next topic. Panthers have been dominating lately. Really quick, keep it short, less than 10 words. Will the Panthers lose? Joey?
They'll go 16-0 and they'll lose in the playoffs.
Interesting.
They play the
choice.
Falcons twice, who are bad. They play at the Giants. I don't see that. And then they play the Buccaneers in Week 17. They don't lose in the regular season. They will lose in the playoffs to either Seattle, who got them in the best of last year, and I just can't count out this Packers team, no matter how many problems they have. I cannot count them out when it comes to the postseason. I just can't do it.
I agree. I think they go 16-0 in the regular season. But another team to watch out for is Arizona. I really like Arizona on both sides of the football. I think that's a team that could also beat Carolina in the postseason.
All right, guys, it is time for our rants coming up here. So really quick, I just want to start this thing off. Sunday, you had President Obama give his speech. He talked about a lot of Muslim athletes that, you know, have changed the scope on sports and stuff like that have been really prevalent. Donald Trump came out and said, "Who are these Muslim athletes? I have never heard of them." Well, sir, you're an absolute idiot. Have you not heard of perhaps the most influential basketball player of my youth, Shaquille O'Neal? Perhaps the most influential athlete of the 60s and 70s, Muhammad Ali? Sharif Abdul-Rahim, one of the better players of the late 90s, early 2000s. Bernard Hopkins, one of the best boxers in all of history. That it was a stupid statement. There are plenty of influential Muslim athletes, and he just frustrates me a little bit. I'll just say that. Joey, why don't you hit us up, bud?
I'm going to go to a little lighter topic here. I'm going to go back to the bowl games. There's 40 of them, 41st actually, the Celebration Bowl, the MEAC and the SWAC conferences, where they're FCS teams. That's fine. It's a good bowl game. They're winning teams. But Nebraska and Minnesota are going to bowl games this year, and they're 5-7. Now, if you're 5-7, you shouldn't be allowed to go to a bowl game, or 6-6 in a Power 5 conference, 6-6 in the MAC and Mountain West and Conference USA, fine. But I think they should switch the rules, 7-5 to go to a bowl game for a Power 5 conference, and you go from 40 to 30. And I won't judge you if you watch the Bahamas Bowl or the Independence Bowl, but just ridiculous. 40 bowl games.
Don't get suspended, Colin.
Don't get suspended. All right, well, I'm going to stick real quick. I'm going to go to the ice. If you're not a hockey fan, pay attention to what Patrick Kane's doing right now. 22 consecutive games with a point. 22 consecutive games with a point. That's impressive. You just don't do that. So impressive. He passed Bobby Hall to set Blackhawks franchise record. Bobby Hall, obviously one of the greats. So if you're up with that names, you know you're doing something well. 16 goals, 26 assists, and for 42 points this season through 27 games. And that second line, that Niezma, Panarin, and Kane line, in my opinion, is the best in the league right now. all they're doing is scoring points. They're winning games. I think Kane's obviously is in the lead for the Art Ross Trophy right now, the Hart Trophy for the MVP, and Panarin obviously could be the Rookie of the Year. So watch out for that line and keep paying attention to Patrick Kane.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed all of the sports talk here today. We want to let you guys know that we will be back with Get Classy later on today, and we will always be here. Actually, this is the last sports show.
It is the last sports show.
This is our last Tuesday, so we want to thank you guys for watching all semester long, and we will be back next semester with all the hottest takes that you can handle on Sports Talk Live.
Happy graduation here to Colin Talbert as well.
There you go.
Thank you.